Chapter 6 is going to concentrate on data monkeying, which is taking a full data set and cleaning it up and organizing it actually for usability. So let's get started. We're going to look at what data monkeying is and then transition that into how to load raw data into R, particularly using a CSV. Then we're going to look at selecting, removing, renaming rows and columns, to organize that data. We're going to talk about cleaning that data that's unneeded. We're going to look at a quick way at why we do this, and then we're going to demonstrate how. And there's one assignment associated with this, assignment number 3. You're going to be reading in a CSV file, the same one that we're going to talk about in the lecture. We're going to clean it, clean the data frame. You're going to store that data set. We're going to do some basic commands on it. So you'll use the stuff we've done in the past 2 weeks, and we'll get some new stuff. So let's get started. Data monkeying is the act of cleaning up a data set. So the set may have extra information in it. It may have unnecessary information. It may have errors. The import into R may not have worked the way you thought, or even something as simple as, it should be a number and it got imported as a string. All of these types of import errors need to be corrected in order to get that data to work efficiently and get the information that you need. Unfortunately, or fortunately, I'm not sure, this is a big part of data science. It's really not a fun part, but it is something that has to be done. So let's get started by looking at importing data. We're going to start out looking at CSV text files. CSV stands for comma separated value. It is a comma delimited text file. If you open them, it looks like a mess. Luckily, R knows how to speak CSV, so that's a good thing. So you can find CSV files all over the internet. R can read these files indirectly from the internet if you have the URL to the proper location, okay? So rather than having to download it and then import it, you can just take it right off the internet. First, you need to have the string of the URL that you want to read. It's going to end in something that says .csv like shown right there. It's a good idea to name a string after the URL. It's going to prevent typos in the later on. And this is an ugly string. So every time I want to refer to the string, I could just refer to URL to read. Okay. That URL to read, if it changes, if it moves, it only has to be changed in that one place then. So that's a good kind of rule of thumb to use. Next, you actually have to read the file. So what we do is we do that test frame, the assignment, and then read.csv. Okay, so we are going to name a data frame. Here we're naming it test frame. And again, we're going to use that assignment operator that we've been using, the less than and the dash. The R command that we use is going to be read.csv. To specify that we're giving a URL and not a location on a disk, we're going to use URL and then send it that URL string. Okay, so that's the basic workings of how to read in a CSV file. If we use the str command and on that data frame that we just imported and get that structure summary, it's kind of a mess, okay? If you look here, the first variable is table with row headers in column A and column headers in rows 3 through 4 leading dots, Yeah, that's terrible, right? Here you can look at some of the other ones. We've got X, they're all by the dollar signs, X1, X2, X3, X4. We've got a bunch of junk, it looks like, down here, because it looks like everything down here are all NAs. This is where your data monkeying is going to actually benefit you. Okay, deep breath. Okay, what happened? I can see a few things that happened. Obviously, we had a little trouble with some of those variable names, but it also made everything a factor. If you go back to it tells it what data type, they're all factors. What that basically means is that it read it all in as strings. Okay, so anything that, even if it is a numeric value, it was read in as a string. Not good. Okay, so we have a few things to do to make this usable. So first, let's access a few items. Remember, we're going to use those square brackets to indicate the item in the list that we want to see. That we want to see, whether it be a list, a vector, or a data frame. So don't forget your data frame quick review, is a two-dimensional data set like a table. So we can both use row and column indicators. Now we can easily delete items by using this minus sign here. Okay, so it's going to delete row 1 and then row 8. Okay, the colon means basically from 1 to the other. So from 1 to 8, delete everything. Okay, it's going to drop rows 1 through 8. So let's take a look at the columns now. It looks like columns 6 through 10 are completely blank. Remember when we did that summary, it was all those NAs. So we'll just do the summary of those last 4, 5, I can count, the last 5 or so columns with their names. NAs, there's 58 of them. It means it's all just blank. Okay, so from this, it looks like all of those rows in those columns are blank, so we can get rid of them. So 2 different ways to do it, okay? We can either say we want to keep these, or we can say we want to delete these, okay? They're going to do the same thing. Okay, you could also somehow use the tail function to give you those last 5, but let's just do it in a way that we're going to save the first 5. Okay, so we're going to keep the first 5 instead. So test frame, we're going to store test frame. We're going to keep all of the rows. The blank means all of the rows in columns 1 through 5. Okay, if you're gonna, if you're gonna follow along and when you go through the assignment, you can display the test frame and just show that, there's gonna be blanks in there as you go on. So we can do a tail and list the last 5, and we can actually see that those last 5 rows are it was some information about the actual census, and it was not data. It was kind of words. So we're going to get rid of those as well. So again, you can delete by using that negative sign. We're using the colon again. So rows 52 to 58, delete, because there is the negative sign there. Now, if you display it again, it's going to look much, much better, but we still have that super crazy long column name. So let's figure out how to rename that column name. Okay, again, there is more than one way to do this. Not a big deal. If you just want to change one column name, you can use the assignment operator like it does here and say all the rows, the first column, name it state name right here after the $sign. Okay. Then you can go in and delete the column with the bad name, because this is going to create a copy of that column and give it the proper name. Or we have a function called call names. Okay. First call names is going to collect the column names of the data frame, and it's going to be stored in a variable list. So you can see, like here, we would store it in this CNAMES. Then you can manipulate CNAMES and change the titles, and then set the names of the data frame back by using CNAMES. Okay, so let's take a good example of that second way, and let's see what happens. Okay, so here's a good example. We're going to use those same names that we used before. So first you're going to use a variable named CNAMES, and in it you're going to store with the assignment the call names, and then you're going to send it the data frame. Okay, then you're going to go in and say CNAMES in the first indicator, give it, quote, a new name. Okay, so it's going to change the name to be new name from that long text that it had before. So then if you view it, it's going to say new name X, X1, X2, X3. Okay. Then what you can do is say call names of test frame, you want to assign it that list. So basically you pull out the column names, you manipulate them, and then you put it back associated with that data frame. Okay, it's a few more steps, works just as well though, especially if you're going to change a bunch of column names. Now remember, the last issue that we had was that all of that data was brought in as a factor or a string instead of numbers for some of these columns. So we need to change the format of the column data type. There's a command called gsub, which stands for global substitute. Okay, it's going to look for a pattern and it's going to return a new value. Okay, we can use this first to clean up those state names. So as you can see, all of the state names have a period in front of it. We don't want that dot there. So let's get rid of that. So we can use the command gsub, And in the state names, we're going to go through and find anything with the period, remove it, and then send it back the new string. Now, because a period is a command in R, we need to indicate that we actually want a dot, right? You're going to look for an actual dot in the string. So that's what the 2 backslashes are for. Okay, the double backslash is going to indicate I'm not talking about the command dot, I'm talking about looking for an actual dot. Okay, next you've got a blank character, so it's going to take out the dot and put nothing. And then you can see there it's going to save it back to the original location of state name. Those backslashes are called escape characters. What it does is it just indicates, again, that it's not a command, but you actually want that in your string. There, so much better. All the dots are gone. So what do we do next? So let's update some of these. Now let's update the column names of the other 4 columns, and let's convert them as shown. What we're going to do in order to convert them, we're going to clean up the value that's in there, and then we're going to put it into a new column. Okay, so when we go there, we're going to have test frame April 10 census. We're going to use X. So we're going to put X and we're going to put April 10 census on that. We're going to do that for all 4 of them. We're getting there. Okay, so now we've got state name, April 10 census, April 11 base, or April 10 base, sorry, 10 pop and 11 pop. Okay, now we've got to get rid of any spaces. We need to convert these, to a number. In order to do that, we're going to use something called as numeric. Okay, it's going to convert to a number. So in the April 10 census, store in it as a numeric any string that I put in here, okay? Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the value that's in there and I'm going to remove all of the spaces and put a blank, okay? So, and I'm going to take whatever's there. So anything that's there, I'm getting rid of all of the spaces and I'm converting it to a number. That's what this whole command is going to do, okay? You're going to repeat that for the 10 census, 10 base, 10 pop, 11 pop, okay? Then you can go in and delete the 4 columns that you don't need, the ones that start with an X. So now what we've got here, and remember, delete has the negative sign, okay? And to do, instead of rows would be before the comma, columns will be after, okay? So we delete 1 through 4. So now we're looking pretty good, right? We did so much adding and deleting though. Look, our indices start out for our row indicators with 9, okay? That's not going to be any good. We want to clean it up and make sure that it starts with a number 1 like it should. So we can do row names just like there's call names for columns, and we can set it test frame. Okay. If we use the assignment operator and set it all to null, it will reset. Now, when we use null, we're going to use all caps. So you can see here, row names of the test frame. We're going to put null. It resetted everything. It reset everything to start back at a count of 1. Okay. Now, this looks like data we can use. Finally. Okay. Now, this, the whole idea behind data mining is very time consuming. There's a lot of commands, getting things cleaned up, but clean data is necessary. And the cleaner it is, the easier it's going to be to use it going forward. Okay, so cleaning up these elements is a very, very important part. Now that we have nice clean data, we can actually do things with it, okay? There is a function called order that is, you can actually sort on a specific column, okay? Now, in order, you tell it which variable to sort on, okay? And then from that, you can either store it in itself or you can store it in a new data frame. So here for this example, I'm going to sort July 11th hop column. Okay, so I'm going to sort on that column right there. Okay, so this order and the function is going to return a list of row indices. Okay, that's going to give me row indices. Okay, that's why it's before the comma. Okay, We want all the columns. Okay, that's in the square brackets. The square brackets are indicating, this is the section of the data that I want, right? And it's coming out of test frame. I'm going to assign it into a brand new data frame called sorted states. Okay, so finally, what this is going to end up being is you're going to have a brand new data frame called sorted states, and it is going to be sorted on that July 11 pop column name. Okay, so hopefully that broke down that command really well for you guys. This is what you see. There's my command. This is what you're going to get when you display it. Now, one thing to notice, okay, you sorted on this July 11th population, which is this one all the way over here on the right, but look at how it sorted it. It sorted it from least to greatest. So what if I want to sort it from greatest to smallest, right? What you're going to do is you're going to put a negative sign by this column name that you want to sort on. Okay, so if you put a negative sign by that column name, it's going to flip it for you and give it to you in greatest to smallest. Okay, so you can see I've put that minus sign in there, and we've got the opposite sort. That's really all there is for the data mining for this portion of the lecture, okay? All you have to do this week is assignment 3, and it is basically going to walk through what we did in lecture, okay? So you may need to, all of these examples are directly out of the book. You may need to pull those up. As always, if you have any questions, please email me. On Thursday, we're going to start looking at RStudio and looking at some additional functions for R. And also, don't forget your preliminary project proposal is due on Friday. Again, any questions, email me. I'm here for you guys. So happy coding. Have a great week. I'll talk to y'all on Thursday. Bye.